Yes.
Welcome everybody to the K12 Tech Forum meeting. Yay, first meeting of the year, though your first meeting, session B, I guess. We had a meeting on Tuesday, and I'm proud to announce that I sent out the wrong link earlier, so some of the people couldn't get in, but I had to correct that. But I don't think we did that this time around. And welcome, so good to see you guys here. We got a number of great guests. We're actually two today. And I'm going to hand that off as soon as I can. But for those of you who haven't been here, just really quick, that this is our funding update meeting. And it's people who are working for the state of Illinois in various capacities. We'll be presenting information. And please, at any time, if you want to ask questions, you can put a chat in there and we'll check that out. Or you can just ask your question. So this is about you too. So if there's something, please feel free to ask us a question or have them repeat whatever they're doing. All right. So thanks again. This is the start of the school year. We always want to make sure we thank you for what you're doing. It may sound redundant, but we do appreciate that. And part of the reason we do these meetings is to give you a chance to get some help and talk to some people, and we try to help you out in any way we can. So we appreciate what you're doing. And as we always do, the Tech Forum isn't just me. I have a board of people who help me out, and they're from all over districts in the area: Dimitri and Lynn, Sarah, Tom, and Phil. Sarah is with us today. She'll be our official note taker, and we will be taking notes and recording the meetings today. It won't be out today. Give me a few days to get it posted up, but if you know somebody who wants to catch it, we will be recording it and you can come back and check it out. That can be found on our webpage at www.k12techforum.org and under past meetings. And along with that, you can go check our future meetings. We did meet this summer and we laid out our meetings that will be coming up. And here's where past meetings is, just at the top of the screen. And you can go back to any meeting we had and find notes and find recordings where they're available. We don't record every meeting, but if it's there, that you can find it on our website. Future meetings through December, we have them coming up, so you can find them on the. I won't spend a lot of time today because I want you to get into seeing that, but we've got all these meetings lined up into June. So the meetings in red will be just the main group meetings, and so you can check. Bring your physical security team next month, so about a month from now. We'll be talking about physical security in the building, cameras and alarm systems and those types of things. And then November, we're going to have it for tech coaches, not just tech coaches, but bring your coaches, your instructional and tech. And then we'll have an open meeting in December, because who knows where the world will be at in December. So we want to be available to address what's going on. And then February, again, we're kind of keeping it open in the middle of the year to see how the year goes and what you guys need. And then we're having some special guests you will all appreciate in the springtime and more open discussions. And then for those who have, you can let your tech support people know, we're holding quarterly meetings for that group, October, January, April, and June. October, we're going to focus on cybersecurity. So we're going to ask, as we do at our meetings, that you fill out the attendance survey. It just helps us with the meetings, and it also helps us know how you feel and what's going on, if you have any questions. And there'll also be a link in there if you want to follow up and get more information from any of our guests today. You can do that. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce Mindy Fiscus, who's the Digital Access Coordinator for the state of Illinois, or one of them. And she's the go-to person that we turn to for any questions about funding, state funding, federal funding. She knows it all, E-rate. She's going to give you a thorough go-over of E-rate today and other funding that's available. And we encourage you, if you have any questions, please reach out to Mindy in the future. She's there. That's her job, is to help you guys get through this, as is the Psalms. He'll be coming up next, but we'll talk about him. But I'm going to turn it over to Mindy, and here you go.
Okay, hopefully you can see my screen, and I am going to go into presentation mode. So there we go. Thank you for having me here at the K12 Tech Forum. As Lee pointed out, if you have any questions along the way, please feel free to throw those in the chat. I will be trying to check the chat on the side, but I will also take some pauses and make sure that I take a look at that. Lee has also promised that he would let me know if there's any questions that present themselves there. So my name is Mindy Fiscus. For those who have not met me, I am the Digital Access Coordinator for the Learning Technology Center here in Illinois, serving the whole state of Illinois through funding through the State Board of Education. So I serve as one of your 2 state E-rate coordinators. I am the weird woman in the state who loves the E-rate program. Not many people can say that. So I do really like the E-rate program. I always have since I started in the late 90s with the LTC. And so my job is to help all of you through the E-rate process. So we will be talking a little bit about E-rate today, but also some other funding and opportunities that are presenting themselves. I also participate in state programs involving connectivity for more than just schools. And so I work with the Classroom Connectivity Project and some other projects across the state for centering on connectivity for everyone in the state. And I serve as your state member for the Illinois representative and board member for the State Education Technology Directors Association. And I'm also a happy member of the State E-Rate Coordinators Alliance. So we are looking at a really interesting time here where we're talking about not only is connectivity important for schools, as we have focused on E-rate in the past, but also important at homes. And the pandemic has pointed out to us in ways that we really knew before, but now everyone seems to know just how important connectivity is for our students in their learning, both at school and at home, as we face some closures and some quarantines and some remote learning opportunities that we can now take advantage of. And so the focus has kind of shifted nationally. The quote here is from our acting chairwoman at the SEC, Jessica Rosenworcel, talking about how now is the time to focus on that homework gap that we have been talking about for years. And though our focus is normally on schools in these conversations, excuse me, what we're finding is that schools are kind of the center to the whole ecospace here. We're having a lot more conversations with our libraries and our homes and our school buses during the pandemic, and talking about how we can get those entities connected to really kind of extend the school workday or extend the workday to other locations. And we're also kind of going back to what we used to call our anchor institutions back in the 90s, and now kind of surfacing everything back to the front again and talking about our community centers and our hospitals and our higher institutions, and how we might all work together in communities to really make sure that everyone in our ecospace that we're serving students in, but also serving just general community members in, can have connectivity that will meet their needs both today and tomorrow. So it's not a new story. As I said, we've been talking about it since the 90s. And so the Illinois Century Network, who Assam is with us here today, kind of started this mission way back when in the late 90s. And the original map that I saw at that time had kind of bigger lines, and the stars were kind of in the same places. And most of the lines were marked with things like OC 16 and OC 32. And at the time, we really thought we had done something in Illinois and built this school network. So way back in the day, for those of you who can flash back with me to those times, we were just getting our school buildings wired. We were getting wiring in our buildings. We were connecting to the state broadband or any broadband service at that point, really starting to embrace educational technology in its foundation, and really trying to find ways to connect to our state network. Over time, things changed a bit. We have more providers in our ecospace, and we kind of shifted in some areas to other opportunities. Some still are with the state network, and we're kind of having a new rebirth of the state network, but we're not just focusing on schools, we are focusing on communities as a whole. So the new maps that are kind of presenting themselves look a little more like this. And this is a map from Illinois Broadband 2020. It is linked in the bottom corner, and I will share the link to this presentation with all of you, so you can follow down those links and chase down those rabbit holes later if you would like. But this is a new mapping program using Esri software that will allow you to go out and see what connectivity options are available in your neck of the woods, and also kind of give some feedback and say, hey, I am at this spot and you have it marked as a 100 megabit connection, but I'm really only getting 2 megabits. And so you can provide some feedback back and forth. You can add additional sites, and you can really help to explain to those making decisions in our state where the needs are and where the connectivity is or is not. And so we're moving in kind of a new way. That being said, our E-rate page on the Learning Technology Center page has changed its title to Funding and Access. So we are now calling our funding and access, it's still under services, it just doesn't say E-rate. So wanted to point that out to everybody while I have a group together. It does also have a little bit of a redesign, and you can see several of these colorful buttons at the bottom where we talk about not just E-rate, but the other funding sources that are available in our state for technology. And we're going to talk about a lot of them today, but I wanted you to know where you could go back to a landing page to have access for information, not just the stuff we talk about today, but for information in the future as well. Today, we're going to talk about the funding sources that are available for broadband. I will touch a little bit on additional funding sources at the end that can be used for a multitude of things, but also broadband related programs are supported there. So we're going to start off with some updates about the federal E-rate program, which I said at the beginning is near and dear to my heart. But then we're going to talk a little bit more about some opportunities that are presenting themselves right now and have funding opportunities that are happening here in the next couple of weeks. There are a couple of different programs that are specific to our state and work with E-rate or in alignment with it, as well as focus on schools. But I will take some time today to also talk about the wider community and how you as schools might be able to support their needs as well. The first one is E-rate, that stands for Education Rate. And for those of you who are just becoming familiar with the program, it was put into Congress in the late 90s and given to the FCC to manage. The FCC uses a nonprofit company called the Universal Service Administrative Company, or USAC, and they manage a lot of different programs for the FCC. So you'll see here at the top where I've circled E-rate. There are several other programs along the way that are also managed by USAC. They're kind of the jack of all trades for FCC work. So when we talk about USAC, or when you hear the acronym USAC, we really are referring to the E-rate or the Education Rate program. What can you get from this program? It is focused on connectivity. So category 1 focuses on all kinds of connectivity for your school district. There is no cap on that funding, but it is all kinds of connectivity, whether that is connecting you to a state network, whether that is connecting you directly to the internet through a provider, or whether that is connecting your buildings back behind their head end building that you're connecting. Any kind of configuration that you have should be eligible for the program. They do wireless, they do fiber, they do dark fiber, and even self-provisioned, which is their term for self-owned district networks, are available through funding through category 1. Category 2 focuses on network equipment and basically all the equipment that you might need to get that internet throughout your building. And yes, I said throughout the buildings. So in E-rate, we're talking about connectivity for the district itself, not things that are outside of the district campus. So we're talking about routers and switches and wiring, wireless access points, even those outdoor wireless access points that might serve your parking lots. So all of the connectivity that would take place on campus. End user devices and home access are not eligible for this program. That being said, also, buses and expanding your school network out to the community is not eligible for this program. So this is focused on just the school and the school grounds themselves. How much money can you save is the next question I usually get. And it depends on your free and reduced lunch rate for the National School Lunch Program. So you can see here on the left, if you can pinpoint yourself into these categories and take the number of students eligible for free and reduced lunch divided by the total number of students in your district, you'll come up with a percentage of eligible students for NSLP. And once you come to that percentage, you can kind of go across the chart and see how you are eligible for both category 1 and category 2. Please note, in category 2, the top discount level you can get is 85%. So that is going to hold true. You will have to have a little skin in the game in this program. Even our poorest districts need to spend 10% of their funds for the category 1 and also need to pay 15% of the bill for category 2 for participation in the program. So there's a little bit of skin in the game. Of course, the wealthier you are in a district, the less kids you have eligible for NSLP, the more of the portion you'll have to pay. There are multiple forms in the program. It starts with the open bidding form that we usually file around December for the 470. I do trainings across the state for the 470. I also offer some of those virtually as well. So if you are filing on behalf of your district and you're new to the process, please reach out to me and get on our LTC connectivity community so that you can be apprised of when we are having these trainings. We literally step by step go through the form of the 470 and the 471 and tell you what to check and what not to check and what to enter where. So the first form, like I said, is in December typically that we file it. It is open now. So if you have a major project that you are looking at doing and you want to get plenty of time for your providers to respond with bids, you can file those 470s as soon as you would like. We do most of our workshops in the months of November and December. And then we turn around and wait 28 days for those to be processed and give time for our providers to respond with their bids, and then file our 471s after the turn of the calendar year. So the form itself for the 471 is typically due in mid-March, and we file those forms usually January through March, and I do another tour of the state for that form. The following forms, the 486 and either the 472 or 474, kind of wrap up the process. The two at the beginning are what I like to call the meat and potatoes forms. We fill those out. We give them all the details that they need. They take a look at exactly who we're getting service from, how much it's going to cost, and where it's going. If they have any questions, they let you know and finally send you a funding commitment. And at this point right here, which is where we are currently, we are looking at filing our 486s, which confirm funding that yes, we do still want to move forward with the project. Yes, we do still need that internet access. We move forward at this point, and we also certify that we are filtering harmful content from our students. At that point, you will determine whether you're going to pay the bill entirely and then file the 472 to collect funds directly from the federal government, or whether you are going to ask and pay only your percentage of the bill and have your provider file the 474 or SPY form. So the process is pretty straightforward, but it does kind of stretch out over sometimes a 3-year timeline. So there are parts of the year where you're filing a 470 for next school year while confirming services for this current school year and collecting money for last school year. So it does get a little trying. Because of that, many school districts do choose to pay consultants to file for them. And that is totally your choice. And if that is something that your district has chosen to do, that is a great option for some. Please know I am here to serve your district, whether you have a consultant or not. So anywhere along the way, if you run into a hitch in the process, or if you have a question about the program itself, or if you just want to sit in on our workshops and see what it is that your consultant is filing for you, you are welcome to do so. All of our trainings at the LTC that support E-rate are free of charge. And so we will be either coming out to you and or meeting you virtually in a space like this. What is new and notable for 2022, especially for those of you who have already been in the program before, invoicing is now in the portal that we use for applications. So as you log in, last year we had some new security measures. This year you will see not only access to EPC, which is the portal that we use to file E-rate, you'll see an access to an ECF portal and should see invoicing. If you do not and feel like you should, reach out to me and I can help you walk through the process for requesting that access. We're also going to see a new 470 this year. It is updated. It has a few more options than it had before, and it's kind of a choose your own adventure form. So as you make a choice on the first page, that will affect the choices you see on the next following pages. That being said, it's a little difficult to do a one size-fits-all demo, and we'll be looking at what all those options are in our workshops, but it makes it a little bit more challenging for those of you who have done it on your own in the past. This may be a year that you want to dial into a training just to kind of see and make sure that you don't miss anything. One of the things that I really do like about the new form is that there is an easy support button. So we've had some hurdles the last few years about getting equipment and not knowing whether USAC will classify a license for that equipment as a equipment piece, like part of the equipment, or as a support piece, like additional support for that equipment. And so this way we can click that easy support button on each, and it'll say, do you wish to also create a support request on your 470 for this piece of equipment? And when we check that, it will put both a internal connections request and a basic maintenance of internal connections request for that item. So that is a nice advancement that I've noticed this year. We are in year 2 of 5 for our category 2 budgets. So this is the second year of a 5-year window that will end the 24-25 school year. So for those of you who did not spend any money this year, your money carries over, of course, each year through year 5. For those of you who did spend money last year, there is a nice tool on the USAC site which will allow you to see how much money was earmarked for your district, how much of it has been spent, and what your remaining funds are. So some school districts are choosing to spend that money a little bit each year for 5 years, where others are focusing on a year or 2 of spending to meet their needs. It's totally up to you how you want to spend that, but just a reminder here that we are in year 2 of the 5-year cycle. It's a little up in the air right now on what we're doing with the National School Lunch Program data. We have standard data that is published on the ISB site for the 1920 school year. So it's FY20 data that is out there and tells USAC individuals what the National School Lunch Program percentage and eligibility is for all of the school districts in our state. Many states do that across the nation. There's a data set that we provide, and they can validate the numbers that you turn into the program from that data set. Last year, because of the pandemic, there was a waiver and we didn't have to update that data. There seems to be a concern nationally that because all students are currently eligible to get free lunch in every school district in the United States, that maybe those National School Lunch Program forms are not being returned by parents at the same rate that they were being turned in before. So there seems to be a little bit of a concern about that. Last year, they gave us a waiver on the data and they said, you can use the data that's in the system. You can update the data. You don't have to. We haven't really gotten a call this year from the FCC to tell us what their plans are moving forward. So there is good potential that you will hear from me that the data that's in there can ride and you're good, and let it sit if you are a little worried about your current information in your system. If you feel comfortable with the current information in your system, please, by all means, it usually works out best for school districts to have the most current data in the system. It just makes it a little bit more of a challenge for Eric and I to validate your information since the ISB systems are still sitting on that old information. So we're waiting to see right now what the FCC will decide and how they will go with that. We really are hoping for any decision that is a hold harmless for school districts in our state and allows them to use whatever data really works for them and that they feel comfortable with. So we really, I'm hoping for a situation that does not penalize anyone for either having old data or for wanting to move forward with new. So when we hear that, we'll be sure to populate that out to our list and let you all know. Our tour is going to resume. I have several sites already who have called back to me and said, yes, let's try to do a face-to-face training this year. So we are currently scheduling face-to-face trainings for November, December. We do reserve the right to turn any of those into virtual trainings if the situation in each area warrants that we should make those a virtual time. We're also putting in a new policy at the LTC that if we have less than 10 people registered for a face-to-face training, we're going to switch that and do that as a virtual option. Virtual did work out really well for us last year, really met people's needs where we are online. But I know that like all of you, we would love to get back face-to-face and actually be able to walk around and see your screens and help you where you are. So we are looking forward to trying to do some face-to-face workshops this year. I don't see anything crazy in the chat. I'm just going to keep talking. So like I said, we are in our second year of Category 2 budgets. For those of you who were unaware that you had funding sitting there earmarked to your district for Category 2 purchases of network equipment, it is available to you at the rate of $167 per student. So you take your total school district amount of students and multiply that by 167. Traditionally, that's how we're going to figure the accounts for most school districts. However, if you are a school district that has less than 150 students in a building, you might want to take a look. This $25,000 minimum per building might work out better for you for some buildings. And if you have less than 11 school districts in or school buildings within your district, you can kind of do a combination. So you can factor in for your smaller attendance schools, $25,000 a school, and for your larger ones, the $167 per student, add that all together and get your district budget. For those of you who have 11 or more schools in your district, you do have to choose one way or the other. A student count usually attributes to a higher level, but we'll have to run the math for each district and see. So that is how we are figuring your district budget. It is the district budget for 5 years. So if you spent any of your Category 2 funding last year, you're going to want to subtract that from the total to know what you have left. And like I said, if you visit the USAC site and you go to E-rate and then tools, there is a wonderful Category 2 budget tool. And I think it says something like 2021 plus. It's the first one listed as Category 2 budgets. And that is the one we will be using this year to see what USAC has on file for you. It is all based on the student counts that are inside the EPC portal. So as I was just discussing, if you feel like the student count that's in the portal is underrepresenting the number of students that you have, you are welcome to go in and update that information. Typically, we update that information in the month of October. I would expect that they will probably hold off on opening that up to everyone until after the ECF window that I'm going to talk about here in a minute. So I would expect that that will open mid to the end of October for you guys to get in there and update those counts if you choose to. Again, districts are responsible for your non-discounted amount. So if you calculate and figure you have $200,000 to spend, but you are a 90% or 85%, because it's Category 2, you will still have to put forth 15% of that $200,000, and the 85% would come from the program. So that is a pre-discount figure. No questions as of yet. For those of you who use E-rate consultants, and we do have 40% of the school districts in our states that do contract with someone, please help your E-rate consultants help you. Do be in contact with them and provide them timely information. Let them know if you've had changes to student counts. Let them know what you want. So many times the consultants report to me that they have to come out to you and like beg you to spend the Category 2 money, or really have a hard time getting from you what kinds of models or what kinds of products that you are interested in having in your district. So please do communicate with them, put together a wish list of things that you need for this upcoming year. Better yet, kind of plan out your entire 5 years and what you'll be needing. They would really greatly appreciate that. Please know who is responsible for what things. Sometimes the consultants file everything and submit it and all. In other instances, the consultants will fill out the form, but it's still the district's administration responsibility to click the button and submit the form. So please do know who is responsible for what and help keep your contact information current for them. If you are using a consultant, please know that the buck stops at you. So if there are other forms and other programs that align with E-rate, in many cases, the consultants that you're using are not informed of those programs or are not the contact person for your district. It is usually the tech or a superintendent or administrator at the district that gets that information about the grants that we will be talking about in a little bit. So you do need to stay in communication and in contact with them. And please let them know that they can reach out to me as well. So I am here to help all schools, whether that is an individual at the school district or whether that is a consultant who is helping you. Again, please communicate with your consultants and with each other and let us know if you run across any hurdles along the way. That is what we're here to do. That was a really quick run through of our E-rate program, but I want to focus a little bit on the new programs that we have available for you. And the first of which is the ECF, or the Emergency Connectivity Fund. And the reason why this is our next focus is because there is an application window coming very, very shortly, September 28th through October 13th. This program is an emergency fund, but this one is focused on home connectivity. So home connectivity for your students and staff. It does include internet on buses. It does include Wi-Fi hotspots that can be sent home with your students. It also includes wired connectivity from a cable provider and or satellite connectivity, etc. Any kinds of programs that you are wanting to do to make sure that those students who do not have connectivity at home can get access to the internet to participate in your learning objectives. It also includes devices. And so there are a couple different rounds for funding. Some of you participated in that first round that closed August 13th. Out of that round, there's a total $7 billion available for the program. And that first round was a request of about $5 billion in funding. So there is some money left, approximately $2 billion. And so they are offering another round. The funding does focus on this current school year. So any expenses that are made July 1st of 2021 through June 30th of 2022. If you bought Wi-Fi hotspots or secured connectivity at locations through the pandemic last year, you can do the monthly charges for those programs. If you need more of those kinds of connections, you can file for it this year. The intent is that the devices and the connectivity that are secured this year will be available for learning this year. I am hoping and I am optimistic that this program will get continued into future years, but that legislation is still pending. So right now, at this point, it is a one-year program focusing on this school year, and there's $2 billion left to claim. So if there are things that you need for home connectivity in your district, please do think about what you need and join us for one of the upcoming trainings that we're having at the LTC. I did bring myself a Post-it note. Thursday, September 20th from 2 to 4, and Tuesday, October 5th from 10 to 12. So one's in the afternoon and one is in the morning. We will be filling out that form together. And you can reach out to me if you have additional questions about the program. We did request nearly
Hold on, Mindy, Tuesday. Wait, when are those again?
Thursday, September 30th from 2 to 4. Both are virtual.
Okay.
Or Tuesday, October 5th from 10 to 2. And if you go to LTC Illinois Services and then go down to the connectivity and funding, you'll find those listed somewhere on that page, or it's just on the general LTC calendar next to my little smiling face picture.
Home conductivity funding?
Yes, funding and connectivity.
Great, thank you.
No problem. So we have a couple of those virtual workshops coming up. Again, they are free. We will walk you step by step through that application on how to file that. So don't stress about it, but do have a really good idea of what you want coming in. The nice thing about this program is that you do not have to go out and seek out bids and get a whole bunch of bids. You just have to follow whatever your local rules are. So you can go out to the commercial providers directly and say, I need to hook up these 10 addresses. What can you do for me and what will that cost? And get those settled that way. Same thing for your Chromebooks or iPads or laptops, etc. You can just ask for what you need and turn in a purchase order with the system to kind of say, this is what I'm looking for. And then once you're approved, you can go right out and purchase those items and get reimbursed. Again, all of these items are available, including connected devices. These are not LTE devices, like they're not laptops with LTE built in, though they could be, I suppose. They're any kind of connected device or tablet. They do need to be portable devices, and there is a $400 cap on those. So if your standard equipment that you're getting in your district is $700 or $800, that's still okay, but you're only going to get the $400 back. If the standard equipment that you have in your district is $400 or less and under the cap, you can get that entirely reimbursed. Also, unlike E-rate, this is a 100% reimbursement program. So it does not matter what your discount percentage is in E-rate. What matters is how much the things are and if you are at or under the cap. The same thing, there is a $250 cap on Wi-Fi hotspots if you need to purchase more of those, though many districts are reporting to me that the Wi-Fi hotspots are typically the cost of the individual devices is considerably lower. The eligible, like I said before, the eligible service of the monthly on any new or existing is eligible for this program. So if you are spending $20 a line for however many lines you have right now, this program can be tapped into to reimburse you for those costs. So please do join us on one of those workshop days or give me an email, shout out to me to find out more about the program. Again, the window opens on the 28th of September, which is next week, and will run through October 13th.
Mindy, can I ask another question?
Sure.
So where it says the $400 cap on devices, is that, I'm not a tech person, so maybe everyone else knows the answer to this, but is it $400 per device, or is
Yes.
it you can only spend $400 total on devices?
It is a $400 per device. So
Ooh,
if you,
okay.
for example, are getting a Chromebook and the Chromebook is costing you $350, that would totally be eligible. And you could get
Great.
100 of them or whatever you need. That being said, if there's a warranty on that and it's bundled into the cost, so many of the providers will say to you, hey, here's your Chromebook. It is the Chromebook that has the auto enroll to Google, and it also has a 3-year warranty, and all of that is $399. That is entirely eligible for the program. However,
whole
if
thing
it
is.
comes and says $350 for the device plus $50 for the warranty and Chrome enrollment, that $50 isn't going to be eligible. So please make sure that that's all bundled together in one amount if you want it to be covered.
So how do you, wait, if you charge them separate, it doesn't count, but if you charge them bundled, it does count.
Right.
I
You
just
heard
want to
me
be
correctly.
clear. So if they're getting Chromebooks and they're getting the Chromebook license, which most people do,
Yep,
you
If
want to
it's-
make sure they're bundled. They're not billed separately. They're not
exactly.
separately listed. So your vendor needs to bundle that together for you.
Right. And we're going to talk about that at the workshop, but we had several in our last rounds of workshops that went, oh, okay, I'm not going to submit this today. I'm going to go back to my vendor and get a new refreshed bid. So
Okay.
I'm just
So
trying
it
to give
is
you a little heads up.
possible to get them bundled.
It depends on who you're working with, to be
Yeah.
honest, but
Okay.
please ask.
Are there any time limits on when it needs to arrive or anything like that? Because there are shortages here and there. So
You
any-
are
any
right.
issues there?
And so on paper, and what we will certify to say is that we are working our very, very best to get everything before June 30th of 2022.
Okay, the end of this school year.
Right.
Right.
Because that is when the funding is for. Now, being in the E-rate program, as long as I have been in it, if we continue to see the delays that we have seen, it would not shock or surprise me that there will be some sort of a waiver that you can file for if you find yourself in a situation to where you don't have it on time. But we are all going to go forth with positive attitudes and believe that we will have it all by June 30th of 2022.
Okay.
One of the questions that comes at me for the ECF the most is it talks about unmet need and how do I determine my unmet need? And so here are a couple of questions that I pulled from the Q&A from the FCC site. If you're interested in reading all of them, you can do so. It's linked in the upper right-hand corner when you get the access to this presentation. But these two are in particular focused on how many devices can I get, basically. So if you have a connected device and it's assigned to the student, but it's no longer sufficient for learning, in other words, it's no longer supported by Google, it no longer is under warranty. If your district is intending on finding a way to replace that current device because it is not going to be operable towards the end of this school year, you can ask for that device from this program. If you have grade levels, say you've been serving 4 grade levels and you are 1-to-1 at all of those grade levels, but you have 3 of the lower grade levels that do not have 1-to-1 devices. And if you went remote learning tomorrow, they would be getting paper packets. You can apply for those whole 3 grade levels. Some school districts are saying, hey, we have devices for students that can go home, but there are some students that don't have access to devices that can go home in certain grade levels or in certain situations. This program can outfit devices for those particular students. So a 3-year-old laptop that needs to be replaced is eligible for the program. However, in question 612, they follow up and say, can you do this to outfit all the students as part of a 1-to-1 device initiative? And then they say, no, You should only seek support for eligible equipment and services who would otherwise lack access to connected devices. However, that being said, most of the school districts that I am now working with and talking to are saying to me, if my child goes home on a remote learning need, or if they are quarantined for 2 weeks, will you or will you not send a device home with them for that? And most school districts are now saying yes. That tells me that if that's your district policy, that student does need that district-owned device at home in order to participate in remote learning. Please know that these are the definitions that are widely available. And if you're concerned about how to define your unmet need on the application, reach out to me and we can discuss through it and see what works for you. The definition is a little bit different for every school district that's filling it out. If there is more requests, then there is funding. So if we have $2 billion left and the requests come in at $3 billion, they will have to determine who gets funded first. So they are not going to go back to the percentages like E-rate or anything. They will fully fund everything they can, but they will start with the poorest school districts and work their way down. So if you are a poor rural school district, you will be at the 95% level. So you can see here, this is again, similar to E-rate, the National School Lunch Program percentages. You can find yourself on this chart and know it will go to 95 to 90 to 85 to 80, down to wherever they need to go to, maybe it's 67.2% in order to spend out the rest of the funding. So this is emergency funding that they are trying to spend out the rest of. Okay, that was a lot on E-rate and ECF. Do we have any more questions about either of those programs before I touch on the other programs available? And then we'll find out a little bit more about one of them in particular. All right. So the next one I'm going to talk to you about is specifically for schools. It works hand in hand with E-rate. It is only for special construction of new network facilities. So that is special construction between buildings or to the internet for your district and your school buildings. It is the state matching grant. If you apply for special construction in E-rate and you also apply for the state matching grant, the state matching grant will cover your percentage or your non-discounted share from E-rate. So E-rate would cover your 70% if you were a 70% district, and the state matching grant would cover the other 30. There's actually a little game that they play with each other, and by leveraging the state matching grant, you get a little bit more from E-rate, but still our state covers the rest. Please do talk to your consultants if you are working with them. Many other states only cover 10%. Our state does cover the rest of the build. So even if you were a 50% school district, you can get the entire build paid for by leveraging both E-rate and the state matching grant. The key is to file your 470s early, know what it is that you want to have built or that you might need to have built. Maybe you just want connectivity and it comes back with a big lump sum build. If we could do this $200,000 project, we could get internet to you. That is eligible. If you wanted to do your own self-district owned lines between buildings, that would be eligible for the state matching grant. But go ahead and get those 470s out as soon as you can to see what kind of responses you get. And once you've chosen to go with one of the bids that has special construction, you're going to check that box on the 471 that says, I would like to do the state matching grant, and then stay tuned for the release of the state matching grant that you would file to accompany your E-rate forms. Again, Eric Grocke, who is our other state E-rate coordinator, releases that state grant out, and you will turn it back into ISB. Eric at ISB, I am the state coordinator that will help you complete that grant. So if you find yourself in the situation where you need to or would like to leverage a state matching grant, reach out to me and I will help you determine what you should say where in the grant application to get it through the ISB's review process.
Mindy, if they apply for that grant, what are the odds they're going to be awarded the money?
That is a great
the
question,
risk we're
Lee.
putting the time in to do it.
So this is our 8th round, I do believe. The program started out with $17 million. This program still has in it more than $10 million. I don't know the exact amount. We had, I think it was $12.3 million with the last round. And it has, there was some money chosen this last round, but we're still above $10 million in the fund. So there's plenty of funds there. The really nice thing about the funding for this program is it then just covers the non-discounted share. So even if you have $1 million project, but you're an 80% school district, that really only attributes to about $200,000 from the state. So the fund's lasting a lot longer than we thought it would. As a fun side note for everyone, Chicago Public Schools has already applied and been awarded their builds. So we are really looking at funding just as many school districts as we can with the remaining amount of funds. I'm told that as long as the fund's there, they will still have the application process.
Can you give some examples? What's a couple things of projects that would be considered a special construction project?
Okay, so we've had a couple of school districts who have built WAN connectivity between their buildings. So 5 building districts who built connections between those buildings. They got a bid.
Like fiber optic connections, or
right. So fiber connections, they got 2 bids. Actually, the particular district I'm thinking of, one was from a lit fiber provider that said, we'll build this out. It won't be a build cost, but we're going to charge you $3,000 a month and it will own the lines and we'll provide your service. Another provider came in and said, we'll build this out for you. It will cost $300,000, but you will own it at the end of that build. The school district chose to go with the $300,000 amount, turned it into special construction costs and the state matching grant for E-rate, got the entire build paid for and saved themselves $3,000 a month. Another option is for some of our small school districts who do not have fiber connectivity at this time. This entices those providers to actually come to your little community and provide you fiber connectivity at your school building instead of the cable connectivity that you have. Nothing against the cable connectivity, but it is not as scalable as that fiber, and the fiber will last you many more years because you can turn it up as you need it more over time, where you would have to put in additional lines with some of those older technology services. So it's also enticing some of our small rural school districts to get connectivity that otherwise would not have it, because some providers aren't interested in moving into our small rural communities unless it is subsidized.
So just a note on that, we'll be hearing more about connecting your broadband connections, and the state, Sam will be talking about that in a little bit too, other options you have.
Right. So the next program that I normally talk about, but I am going to reserve the majority of that talk for Assam when I'm done, is the Illinois K12 Broadband Network. It's definitely a fantastic option for school districts to think about whether you want to continue to pay for your connectivity your traditional way, or whether you want to take this option and connect back to the Illinois Century Network. It kind of takes us back to the 90s where we all got started and connecting to that map that I showed you earlier. We're now revisiting that as a model and deciding that that really is the best financial way to go for many of our school districts. So Assam is going to spend some time here in a minute talking about the advantages of joining the Illinois K12 Broadband Network and Consortium, and which ways you can leverage to connect to that. Please note there are a couple of forms to fill out in order to get it connected to that, and both Lee and I can help you to navigate those forms and get signed up for the consortium if you choose to. But I will not steal Assam's thunder. I'll go through my next few slides and then turn it over to him. There are a few programs that are widely available for the community as a whole. One of them is EBB, the Emergency Broadband Benefit, and it does provide $50 a month off of your internet access bills for homes that qualify. Again, this program is managed by USAC, is leveraging one of the other programs they have called Lifeline. It also includes a credit towards a device, but it's only $100. So in many times, if you get a device through this program, there will still be a cost that you'll have to pay yourself to cover the rest of the cost of the device. This is for any home in your community that it qualifies for a multitude of these eligibility qualifications, one of them being National School Lunch Program. So if you have students within your school that qualify for NSLP, they can use that as a certifier on the form to say, I'm eligible for this program, my child gets free or reduced lunch at school, and that they can get $50 off their home internet access bill. Right now, it did open in early May, and as of last week, over 5 million households are now enrolled. So they are still working that program, and if you have students or families that can meet that eligibility, please do encourage them to get a discount on their internet access bills. You can visit getemergencybroadband.org. I've even seen some commercials on television for it. So it is a program that is being heavily promoted. Again, it is multitude of things that can make you eligible. Pell Grant recipients are also eligible. So if you know college students that participate in the Pell Grant program, they could also be eligible for that $50 credit.
So is that something they have to apply for themselves, or does the school help
Right,
them?
right. So in all the other programs that we've talked about, that has been the school district applying on behalf of the home, or on behalf of the school itself. In this one, this is individuals that do apply for it, but many school districts have put themselves in the driver's seat of letting people know about it and providing certification to them that shows, yes, you are part of our National School Lunch Program, so that school districts can go ahead, or so that individuals can go ahead and apply themselves. We also have funding in our state specifically for more builds and getting our broadband to places we don't currently have it. So several of those funding opportunities are on Connect Illinois. That is the governor's broadband project. Broadband expansion, I believe, is what it's called on the website. There is currently $400 million in state funds that is enticing providers to get connectivity to places that didn't already have it. In addition to that, they do a really cool program that is community planning grants. The grants are $10,000, but it is the idea that the school districts can be the lead. Sometimes it's a local nonprofit that's the lead, or even a local business could be the lead on it. But they get a group of people in your community together to talk about all these available funding sources and how to best leverage all of them to get connectivity to all parts of your community, no matter where that location is or the socioeconomic level of that part of your community. And so it is a great planning opportunity. They've had 2 rounds of people who have participated, and in both rounds, there have been several districts who have taken the lead on that, written for that $10,000 grant, and are leading those conversations in their communities. They have a fantastic.
What does the $10,000 cover? What is the
Actually, we want to check with them to be sure, but I've seen and heard it's covered a lot of things. So in some instances, the $10,000 has covered the planning and the meeting and the conversing. In other instances, the $10,000 was to cover like a community center that other businesses and places in the town were going to connect to. So it could be actual connectivity. It could be promotional activities. There are all kinds of things that $10,000 can go towards. You as a group decide what you need it to cover. I suppose you could get Wi-Fi hotspots and pass them out to people in your community, and that 10,000 could cover that. So there's a multitude of ways to do it. The answer on that is going to be different for each community that writes for it.
Well, a number of districts want to put hotspots out in the parking lot or something like that. They don't have one there now.
With the funding sources that we have, with the funding sources that we have, that's limited, hotspots in your own parking lots as a school district or E-rate. But if you want to go put hotspots in the local, like insurance office or the parks or something like that, this program could be used for that because E-rate cannot.
Sounds like it wouldn't hurt to talk to you if they have ideas of what they want to do and just which fund to access depending on the project.
True. And like I said, my focus has primarily been on schools, but we are really opening up the big spectrum and really taking a look at what would work best for every school district. This program also does that mapping feature I talked about earlier, talking about where connectivity is. That helps them to identify what areas of the state they might target these funding for, and says, hey, update these maps and see what those look like. They also have a partnership with PCs for People, where they take computers and refurbish them and then pass them out to community members who otherwise wouldn't have access to a device. So they're doing great things at our Connect Illinois office in Springfield. There's also all kinds of other pandemic funding that hopefully some of you are seeing through your offices as well. The big pot of it came out last year, and additional pots that are 4 times and 9 times that original pot you'll see throughout this school year. That can be used for a multitude of things, from hand sanitizer and plexiglass to learning materials and digital learning materials, as well as any kind of connectivity that you might need. You can even put in a new hazmat system with that. So there's all kinds of ways that funding can be used. Please know that it is there. And I encourage you to get at the table and find out how your school district is spending those funds. As it's written right now, those funds have to be distributed and spent by June 30th of 2024. So we have some time on that. But I know that there are a lot of competing resources for those funds as well. So please know how your school district is leveraging these. What I really don't want to happen is that people come up to you in April or May of 2024 and say, quick, here's $1 billion, let's spend it. So let's be at the table and know how those funds are being used and how they can be used for technology to support learning. If you want to stay up to date on the changes as they're taking place minute by minute in our state, you can join our LTC community. It is community.ltcillinois.org. It is the same platform that ISTE and COSIN uses. So it is a little bit familiar for those of you who participate in those organizations. Those are the communities that we are using to connect our coaches, to connect our techs, to connect our people who are doing E-rate, and even our administrators in the state. So join the conversation there at the LTC community. I'm going to stick around at the end to answer any more questions you might have. If you want access to this presentation to share to others, you absolutely have that. It is a bit.ly, and it is capital LTC, lowercase access 2122, and that will stay available to you. My email address is mfiscus@ltcillinois.org. But I am going to pass the reins over to Assam so that he can explain the benefits and advantages to participating in the K12 Broadband State Consortium for you. And like I said, I'll stick around and answer questions afterwards as well. So let me stop share and pass that over to Assam Elbeek.
All right, thank you, Mindy. Oh, great, slides are up. Great. Well, my name is Sam Elbeek. I'll be talking briefly today about the Illinois K12 Broadband Network and the benefits that are available to you via that network. If we can go to the benefit slide, please, Lee. So in July of 2019, we started a consortium of Illinois public K12 schools with the intention of providing secure internet and broadband connectivity to all public schools at no charge. The funding is provided by the E-rate program, but what E-rate doesn't cover is provided by state appropriation. So Illinois Department of Innovation and Technology is a state agency. The Illinois Century Network that provides access to the internet is the state network and is part of the Department of Innovation and Technology. And as I said, so what is provided at no charge is the internet, the secure internet, as well as all the connectivity. So that includes connectivity from the ICN to your head end side, your admin office, and also the connections between your schools. And so if you look at that diagram, we have two types of circuits that we define. So a last mile circuit will be from your head end office to the ICN, and then a WAN circuit we define as between school locations. So that's all provided at no charge. In terms of security services, when you receive the internet, you also receive auto DDoS protection, so auto distributed denial of service protection, a centralized firewall as well. The device that we put at your head end premises has a local firewall, and that can be activated as well. That's up to you. And then also, we've just purchased a large chunk of Cisco Umbrella licenses for content filtering and security. And we have those licenses available to public K12 who are also ICN customers, and that's also available at no charge. Now when I talk about internet is available, as much internet and connectivity as you need is available. So you will let us know how much you need, whether it's several hundred meg or 1 gig or several gig or 10 gig. We'll provide whatever it is you need. In terms of upgrading, if you want to upgrade from 1 year to the next, that's also possible. The arrangements that we have with the vendors for these circuits, we issue them an order each year so that you could, for example, start with 1 gig in the first year and then the second year upgrade to 2 gig. So that is an overview of the benefits. If we can go to the next slide, please. So eligibility. So who is eligible? So to receive the internet and the broadband connectivity at no charge, that is available to public K12. So Illinois public K12, and also state and district authorized charter schools can receive the internet and connectivity at no charge. Now, if you're an E-rate eligible entity, but you're not a public K12, so you're a private K12 or you're a library, you can still join the consortium that we've established. But what E-rate does not cover, we pass through to you. So for public K12, we cover everything. For private K12 and libraries, we'll pass through to you what E-rate doesn't cover. Next slide, please. Okay, so how to connect. So what I lay out here are the different options and timing that's available to you. If you want to connect as soon as possible, then that is possible. And what you need to do is purchase your own point-to-point connection to the ICN. So if tomorrow you call your vendor and purchase a connection to the ICN, then we'll get you provided with secure internet as soon as that connection is made. We interwork with many Illinois providers already, so the chances are that your vendor, your service provider is already connected to the ICN. And if not, we'll work with them to get connected to the ICN. We provide free co-location to the provider, and entry fiber we provide at no charge as well. And also the provider doesn't pay us for co-locating in our facility for the purpose of connecting you to the ICN. So that's one option, one scenario. Another scenario is you want to get connected to the ICN, but you want ICN do it to cover all the costs. And for this scenario, you need to complete some paperwork. And what I mean by that is there's a E-rate mandated form called Letter of Agency that you need to complete. And you also need to let us know for the circuits, what are the circuit endpoints, what are the addresses? And we have an online tool that we use to capture that information. And it uses drop-down options, because we pull the address information from USAC, and so it's pretty easy for you to use that tool and specify the circuit endpoints. Now, those circuits will be available from 1st of July 2023, with one caveat, and that is that we're about to issue a procurement for the funding year 1st of July 2022. And when I say about, I literally mean in the next couple of days. We're right at the last stage of this. If you're able to get me your circuit information today or tomorrow, then it should get into the procurement that we're literally about to release, and so you'll be able to have your costs covered from 1st of July 2022. So I just wanted to, and I'll talk more about that at the end of the presentation. And then another point is on the last bullet here. If for whatever reason you don't, give me your information in the next couple of days, you can still get subsidy for the connection to the ICN for a circuit from 1st of July 2022, but you would do your own E-rate filing. So in your own E-rate filing, you should specify a point-to-point circuit to the ICN. You get bid responses. You can compare that to what you're currently doing, and then you can choose the path you want to take. Now, one thing I forgot to mention is that if you're in an existing contract, we do want you to complete your existing contract first before you switch over to the ICN. Now, having said that, that doesn't mean that you wait until your existing contract is finished before you give me your information. Because of the long lead times that E-Rate has, if your existing contract expires prior to 30th of June 2024, then you should provide your information. So in essence, we want you to complete your current contract with your current vendor, and then the next day switch over to the ICN and to the consortium circuits. And to do that, we need your information, your circuit information. Okay, next slide, please. This is just one quick slide on Cisco Umbrella. So Cisco Umbrella provides content filtering that enables you to be SIPA compliant with E-Rate. So Children's Internet Protection Act compliance with E-Rate, that's mandatory with E-Rate. And also it provides what Cisco calls the first line of defense against security. So obviously the content filtering can protect against harmful content, but also protect against, for example, phishing websites. If there's a phishing site in an email, this feature protects against that. If you're interested in getting Umbrella at no charge and you're an ICN customer, then go to that website, doitconsortium.com. Now that is a link, it's just a redirect link to an illinois.gov page. And so go to that page and then fill out the form. There's a link to a form at the top, towards the top of the screen. And there we just ask your contact info and the number of full-time staff you have at your school. That determines the number of licenses that we allocate to you. As I said, we're about halfway. About half of our licenses have been allocated. So if you are interested in that, I recommend you fill out that form as soon as you can. And then an ICN engineer will contact you. It's actually really easy to get you set up. Just very simple provisioning on the DNS server, and that's basically that. So next slide, please. Oh, okay. So a few questions. What is the cost? Well, there is no cost to you for anything here. So for the internet from the ICN, for the circuits provided by the consortium, for the security services, there's no cost. Can I change bandwidth in future years? Yes, you can. The program's designed for you to be able to increase bandwidth each year. And if your school is part of the program, we come back to you every year and say, okay, do you want to continue? Do you want to still order your circuit for next year? And if so, what bandwidth do you want? The next question, what if funding ceases? So we had a few questions about what if funding ceases. What I would say to that is that if funding were to cease, you shouldn't be in any worse position than you are in now. And most likely you'll be in a better position. And the reason for that is if funding were to cease, that would mean that funding ceased for the portion of cost that E-Rate doesn't cover on the circuits. But if that funding were to cease, it is highly likely that the consortium itself would continue, and that the consortium would continue with the procurement for circuits. And the reason for that is what we're finding is we're getting really good pricing on the vast majority of our circuits. It's because it's very transparent. And so we're just finding vendors, which is good, right, competing against each other. And this is bringing down the price dramatically. And so what will most likely happen is if the funding were to cease is you'll have an option of going with a consortium circuit and this is a cost, or you go with your own circuit and this is a cost, and you just choose the most cost-effective option for you if the funding were to cease. But in the meantime, the consortium approach, all the cost is covered. Yeah, I mean, I believe that if the funding were to cease, you'd be in no worse position than you have now, for example. If you have further questions, then you can email me. And if we go to the next slide, please, which will be the contact info. So the consortium website is doitconsortium.com. You'll see in there some past webinars. You'll have the form to subscribe to Cisco Umbrella. And there's, and the letter of agency form is at that website as well. That's required to be part of the consortium, as well as instructions. If you have any questions, you can email doit.icn.k12@illinois.gov, or you can email me directly. My email is there as well, samlbick@illinois.gov. And just briefly, to go back to what I was saying, if you want your circuits included in the procurement that we're about to issue, and this procurement that we're about to issue is issued in parallel to an E-rate Form 470. So we're going to issue a Form 470. What I need is your circuit information, and that means the endpoints of the circuits. So if you go back to that diagram I mentioned before, we need, for the WAN circuits, what are the school locations at the end of the WAN circuits? And for the last mile circuit, what is the school location? So you can just email me the addresses and say, I have 3 WAN circuits. These are the endpoint addresses. Give me the address. I have a last mile circuit. Put down the address, and then the letter of agency will need to be filled out as well. If you can get that to me today, tomorrow, it should get in the procurement that we're about to issue imminently. So that's my presentation. Any questions?
So Assam, if I'm a school and my current contract runs out in 2023, and we go with you guys, how long will, and let's say AT&T wins the procurement bid starting in 2023, how long would I be signing up for this?
So it would be, so we signed the contract with the vendor. It's a contract for 6 years. And so once, in your example, AT&T is awarded that circuit for 6 years. And so, a school can be part of the program, and with those AT&T circuits, it will be so from 2023, it will be from 5 years. So we'll sign a 6-year contract, let's say in March of 2022. And so from 2023, you've got about 5 years of service. We like the schools to obviously remain with a consortium. If a school building closes down, then we issue a disconnect. But if we've awarded a circuit to a vendor and the school moves forward, then the typical scenario is that the school would stay with the vendor and receive service at no charge for 5 years.
We discussed this on Tuesday. If there's any issues with the cutover time, let's say that it ends, they go in next year. Any suggestions for schools that they do this, about how they should approach their current contract and when they should end it and so forth? Is there a good strategy for handling that so that you don't have a time where you don't have any service?
Yeah, so we're recommending that schools, issue of 470 for their own for a month-to-month service. So if schools join the consortium and you give me your circuit information, it's most important that you continue doing what you normally do. By giving us your circuit information, it just allows us to put that out for bid. We get bid responses, and then later on we'll come to you and ask you, well, what path do you want to take? And yeah, we do recommend that in your own 470, you request month-to-month service, such that if you need service from your current vendor, after the end of the E-rate year for 1 or 2 months, then that's covered. I'll be going into more detail about that at a webinar that I'm giving next Thursday at 10 a.m. on the 30th of September. That will talk about the recommendations for schools in how to fill out their E-rate form.
So
Is there
Lee,
anything-
I'm
go
going to
ahead.
go out on a limb and say you can't do it early enough. So like, if you want to have it as an option, just get in there and fill out the paperwork and tell them what you want. They're going to take a look at your end contract date that's on your E-rate paperwork, and they're going to align you for the appropriate bidding cycle for that. But it's another option that you will have. So like, you could fill out that paperwork and not have the end contract till 2023, and that can be fine. When they come back to you and say, hey, this is the provider we've chosen for you, do you want to make this move or not? Then you'll have the conversation about when that move takes place. If there's like a build or something involved with that, that was one of the main concerns that people had when we started off 2 years ago, but there really hasn't been a holdup, even with everything else we've had going on, that has really caused too much concern for the build to get things up and going if there's a new provider. In most cases, totally my opinion, I don't have statistics in front of me, the existing provider is the one that comes in and says, hey, here's a bid to connect to the network. Now, there could be others as well, but most of the time the existing providers are like, connect you back to the regular internet or connect you back to the ICN network. We can do that either way. They've been really good to work with.
The important thing is to get, like Mindy said, get started now. And there's no cost to do it, and there's no commitment. So if you go in now and do all the paperwork and get connected, you're not committing to doing this. You still have the option, but if you wait, you may not have the option. So you want to fix it in with your E-rate cycle so that you're far enough ahead. So that's why we're pushing it now, to get people in, so the state can also then know what circuits are being requested so that they can better plan and get all that in there. So there's no commitment to get in now if you go.
Yeah, that's a good point, right? When E-rate, the way E-rate works is you issue a 470 and you can issue multiple 470s, but you're not obligated to follow through with that 4. So you're not obligated to order service, and it's the same with the consortium. At this point, we just need the circuit information. Once the circuit is awarded, then at that point, that's the point of commitment. Do you want to order or not? But if you don't want to order, that's fine. If you have, for whatever reason, you prefer to go with your own solution and not order via the consortium, then that's fine as well.
I've heard Assam say this a number of times. You're giving yourself another option by doing this. And
yeah.
And third, there have been some school districts that I've talked to that say, I want to be in charge. I want to be in control of that line back to the ICN, and that's okay too. So you could bid out on your 470 for a point-to-point connection from your district back to ICN, and you could pay a cost on that. You could be totally in charge of picking who that vendor is through your own review process back to the ICN, and that's also an option for schools. So I'll be encouraging everyone moving forward to make sure that they list their traditional service that they have, the option of doing a point-to-point back to ICN, and also signing up for the consortium. And then when the time comes to choose, you have all of those choices in front of you and can pick what best works for you.
Yeah, so get on your E-rate stuff as soon as possible to make sure you get the years entered in and your E-rate cycle, so that this is included as an option in your E-rate.
And it's a really good option, just as a side note. It could save a lot of people a lot of money.
So if you are interested, you can contact Assam. You can contact me. We'll give you an option when you fill out the survey afterwards, you can put something in there that you'd want us to contact you, and Assam will be getting back to you about that if you do that.
Great.
Assam, there are also videos on the website for the people who are wanting to fill out the forms, etc. I think there's like either PDF support documents or videos on the site that kind of walk them through filling out the forms. They may not need it, but are those still up?
Yeah. Well, okay. For the letter of agency, the letter of agency is if we can go to doitconsortium.com. The letter of agency is a straightforward form to fill out. If we can scroll down to forms and tools, a bit further down. Okay, forms and tools. Yeah, see K12 letter of agency, K12 letter of agency instructions. Have a quick look at the instructions so that you know how to fill out the blanks. Just that, because that is helpful. And yeah, fill out the K12 letter of agency. That allows us to include your circuit in the procurement. And then we have the Consortium data collection tool and Consortium data collection tool video below as well. Yeah, there. That should be used to provide your circuit information. If you're going to provide me something today or tomorrow, you can just send me an email. Like if you only have 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 locations, just send me an email with addresses, just to make sure I have that info. But the normal process is you would provide your information via this tool. And then, yeah, it's a short 10-minute video with instructions, very straightforward instructions.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Sam. Is there any questions from you guys out there? I'm going to stop sharing for a minute. Where did it go? So I can see who's out there.
A bunch of pictures and black screens. That's what's out there, Lee.
I want to see who's still left. I can't see what I'm sharing my screen. Bo, do you know if your district is participating in this?
We are. Yeah, I know we are. Yeah, Temple's on top of that stuff.
Yep. So, well, if there's no questions, we did good time. We got 5 minutes to spare. So, again, you've got the information to contact. We'll be putting the notes up if you missed anything there, and we're recording this so you can go back and review it with all the other 1,000 other recorded videos you need to watch these days. We just want to add to that, but thank you, Assam. Thank you, Mindy, as always. And please check us on, most of you guys here, you're regulars, so it's good to meet those who are new. I think James, I don't know if we've met before, but glad you could join us. And we hope to see you at future meetings, and thanks again. And I guess we'll conclude our meeting for today. Thank you.
All right, thanks. Yeah, bye.
Thank you, Lee. We'll talk soon.
Okay,
Thanks, Mindy.
bye.
Bye, guys.
Bye.